It's hard to think of any athlete better known or more polarizing than Alex Rodriguez.
He's done it again! Swatted the ball out of a Royals hit.
See ya! He joins the 3,000 hit club.
A 3-time MVP, 14-time All-Star, and World Series champion, he retired in 2016 as the highest paid player in MLB history, 4th all-time on the list of home runs. But his playing career isn't likely to be remembered by those statistics or by who he is or isn't dating.
A record suspension tonight for baseball star Alex Rodriguez over his use of performance-enhancing drugs.
You say you did not do these PEDs that they're accusing you of doing.
You're correct, Mike.
Okay.
This dude is unbelievable. A phony to the end.
While it was the most painful time of my life, it may cost me the Hall of Fame, and that's on me, nobody else. I think in a weird way, I'm going to look back and say that's also one of the best things that happened.
5 years after his retirement, Alex Rodriguez, the CEO, is getting back into sports, this time as an owner of a pro basketball team. And he wants to build more than just a franchise, but a legacy, maybe with a dose of redemption.
The mistakes made in baseball are done, and I can't go back and fix them. I want to keep a clean record as a father, as a friend, as a business person. And because of those mistakes, I think I have that opportunity, and I'm having the time of my life doing it.
A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, is buying the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx. The purchase price is expected to be in the range of $1.5 billion.
For me, I think making the transition from player to owner is something that's very exciting to me. I'm really excited to bring my experience both in business and in sports and in a locker room and do really, really exciting things and bring a world championship to the city.
In April 2021, Alex Rodriguez joined one of the most exclusive clubs around, folks who own a pro sports team. And while his name and his fame made the headlines, it was his business empire that allowed him to actually close the deal. The easy-to-remember name, A-Rod Corp, it's grown into a diversified investor and operator, taking a cue from mega firms like Blackstone and KKR. A-Rod Corp has taken a real estate portfolio and expanded into venture capital and private equity and media, and like any business in 2021, its own SPAC.
I was more lucky than smart. I started investing very small in real estate, simply as a hedge to, as my earning power would close, my real estate would not only appreciate, but create more cash flow. And then I would take that cash flow and I would buy more real estate and other private equity type investments where it generated more cash flow. So as my Yankee income went to zero, hopefully my real estate and my businesses would grow over time.
And while players nowadays are becoming better and better business brands, few are able to achieve the scale as A-Rod Corp has in such a relatively short amount of time. But understanding how that growth happened in business, just like baseball, has to start at home.
Part of what I love about business is you get to build things from nothing, right? Like nothing. So I had 2 hip surgeries, and I never wanted to be the old guy that couldn't get up, the stairs. So I built a flat house, all entertainment on that side, my room here, dad and the girls on this side. But it had to be one story because A, I'm always forgetting things, and B, I didn't want to be like, oh my God, I can't get up the steps because of these hips.
I walk around here. First of all, the art's beautiful, but tons of pictures of you and the girls. And you've really made a family life for yourself here. Tell me about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not at home. I'm not a cleanup hitter and I'm not a CEO.
Right.
The girls remind me every day that I work for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Daddy, I can see why you play baseball.
People always ask me, what do you do in your life? And I say the 3 Bs. I do baseball, now basketball too, business, and my babies. And that's my happy zone. It's funny, through the pandemic, we spent so much time here. And in my 46 years, the toughest time in the world that I've witnessed. On the other side of that, we were in here and we felt safe and we felt loved. And it was like 90 days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my girls, it was a dream come true. They got so sick of my dad jokes, so sick of my dancing. Natasha would at least do TikToks. I've been begging, trying to bribe Ella to do one with me. She goes, Daddy, you have no swag, no drip. I'm not doing anything with you.
A-Rod's dancing may not get his daughter's approval, but his following on social media is huge, with nearly 4 million followers on Instagram alone. That number is larger than his new basketball team, the Yankees, or the Red Sox, not to mention any other single baseball player, current or former.
Who has better taste in music? Whose room is decorated nicer?
What is it that makes you engage the way you do in social?
You know, Jason, a lot of that came through my time during my suspension. You know, I spent a whole year serving a suspension, and in that time, I had an opportunity to turn the lens inward and understand why I was making some of the good choices, the poor choices, the bad choices, and understand kind of conversation, understand storytelling. And it's something that I'm enjoying. It's still fairly new. We're not experts by any means, but every time we look at companies or opportunities or partnerships, it's data-driven and social-driven, and it's been quite a tool for us.
That suspension, which obviously people will forever associate you with, and there's an interesting choice you make there at that moment and then in subsequent moments to not lean out, to not retreat, but to lean in to some extent, and especially in the last couple of years. Tell me about that.
If you think about my career, sure, I've hit home runs and been part of a world championship team, but I'm 5th all time in the history of strikeouts. I mean, that means that only 4 people in the history of mankind have failed more than me. But I think as a result, I've been, PhD in failing, but also an MBA of getting back up.
Looking around at his house and his selection of cars, it's hard to say that A-Rod has ever really failed. But it's striking what he has built, considering where he came from.
I was born in New York, raised in Miami. So when I got to Miami, I was around 8.5, 9 years old. My father left when I was around 10. And at home, it was Mom, my brother Joe, and my sister Susie. They took the role of my brother became the Secretary of Sports, my sister became the Secretary of Education, and my mom just had to, make enough money to pay our bills. I think, my father leaving us at 10 kind of left a huge vacant spot, right? And I think I needed to then kind of fill that void by having a collection of mentors.
One of those earliest mentors was his baseball coach, Rich Hoffman, right here at Westminster High School.
So you've walked through this area a few times.
Oh, yeah. This brings back some pretty cool memories. If you hit a home run here, it goes to the basketball courts and the pool.
Right.
And I kind of like it. It's kind of got this Fenway, kind of Wrigley
yeah, exactly.
field.
Instead of the green monster, you have the green palms.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Well, it's really where I really started to understand the power of mentorship and dreaming big. And if you think about it, I have one of the most important conversations with Coach Rich Hoffman. And that happened at 15, the first day I walked on campus. He goes, look, Alex, you're gonna come in this year, you're gonna have a good year, and then you're going to the Junior Olympics to represent the US. You'll do well there, you'll get much stronger. By that time, you'll be the top junior in the country. And then your senior year, you're gonna be the #1 pick in the country. And then you're gonna be off to the big leagues. Coach, you're talking to me? He goes, yeah, I'm talking to you, Alex. And Jason, I went home that night and I believed him. It just it changed my complete vision on me and my future. And then I did everything in my power not to let Coach down. So as a leader today, when I have young people, it's my job to not only give them the opportunity, but to push them and push them to a level where they now see the world in a different way about themselves.
That prediction came true. In the 1993 MLB draft, Rodriguez was selected first overall by the Seattle Mariners. And while his playing career was just getting started, by the age of 22, he'd invest in his first piece of real estate.
It was what I knew best. My mother, she wasn't a homeowner. She was, we were renters, right? We were tenants. And every 18 months we would move because the landlord would always raise the rents. And I remember as a young kid saying, boy, if I can ever trade places with the landlord and they can be the tenant, that would be amazing. I bought my first duplex, and then I owned that for a few years. I sold it for double, bought fourplex, eightplex, 60 units, and off we went.
When it came to those first investments, whenever he does something, he's going in at 100%.
This is Jose Gomez. Everyone calls him Pepe. Along with Jose More, he's the co-CEO of Newport Property Construction and also a childhood friend of Rodriguez.
From 2004 to 2007, we ended up acquiring 5,100 units between Florida and Texas. We renovated them. He would buy them, I would renovate them, and the rest was history.
Being a real estate investor, especially in high-growth markets like Florida, well, it hasn't been a straight line up for the past 2 decades.
Miami's high-rise condos are monuments to a burst property bubble. Almost half of Florida mortgages are underwater.
We had this run up to 2007. Prices were going up like this, and then it just fell off a cliff.
The Great Recession crushed owners and developers alike. Few were immune, except those that had other sources of income to take advantage of falling prices. Income like, say, one of the richest baseball contracts in history.
Our huge advantage was that Alex had W-2 income coming in from playing, and we had that staying power. So we were able, even when things started going, south for some people, we were able to grow within those difficult times.
Monument Capital Management has done more than 60 deals since 2012, worth more than $900 million. The extent of that ambition in real estate is evident here at Grand Station in downtown Miami. The 30-story residential tower, complete with a sprawling amenity floor and pool, has sweeping views of downtown. It's a bet on Miami's growth, and it's a bet that's looking smarter as Wall Street firms and other companies look southward.
People always question Miami. Why do people live there? There's not any great jobs. We don't have a lot of financial services here. We don't have anybody manufacturing anything. But that's changing. People see this as a very cool place to live and work. Now, before it was always a cool place to live, but where are you going to work? Now it's okay, the jobs are here first.
Cool place to visit in the past.
Right, yeah.
And now each pocket is being built out. I think Art Basel years and years ago started that, and then there have been a course of events that have followed that continue to enrich Miami, and I would say we're still early as a city.
But while Miami may be home base, Rodriguez's most aggressive current real estate project is buying, renovating, and renting out single-family homes in markets across the country. And in this case, he's not just emulating some of the world's biggest investors, but also getting into business with them, including real estate legend Barry Sternlicht. Just as behemoths like Blackstone have amassed single-family homes, Rodriguez, through the Tiber Capital Group, has snapped up 5,000 homes so far.
We think we're still in the early innings of single-family housing. Rents are going up about 18 to 19%. Once we find something, then, this I learned from Warren Buffett is, be disciplined, but when you find your pitch, don't go for a single or a double. Go in and go in big, and that's exactly what we've done, multifamily, and now with single-family houses.
Going big has required Rodriguez to build a team around him, and he's opted for a delicate balance of homegrown and outside hires. On the one side, friends dating back to childhood and adolescence, including Aaron, Pepe, and Jose. On the other, newer additions such as Kelly LaFerriere, Stuart Zook, David Becker, and Lisa Pyer. Managing the chemistry among the small and growing team is akin to the elusive intangibles Rodriguez saw in clubhouses when he was a player. Getting it right? Well, that's the difference between being a champion and an also-ran.
Lisa, take it away.
Sure. So I think next we're going to have David on Timberwolves from Kelly. Awesome. And VCP as it relates to Timberwolves and Glenn.
Cool. So teams 11-11, and one exciting development is the 12-17 game against the Lakers is going to be on ESPN. So we were not on the ESPN schedule, now we are.
At the A-Rod Corp offices, you'll notice the memorabilia, the pictures of famous athletes, the real-time social data being displayed on a TV wall. But you'll also see pictures of Rodriguez with some of the biggest businessmen in the world.
Alex has become a sponge, and he started that as an active player. When he was on the road, he would go and visit the Jerry Reinsdorfs of the world in his uniform and ask them business questions. And he's surrounded himself with really good, smart people.
The wide network is critical in sourcing deals, including in the venture world, where the A-Rod portfolio has included more than 60 companies, brands like Hims & Hers, GoPuff, and UFC gyms. But having the best team doesn't mean you win every at-bat. Their SPAC, Slam Corp, was recently negotiating a roughly $3 billion deal to merge with collectible company Panini. That didn't materialize after Panini stumbled. Slam's still in search of a target. But Rodriguez's belief in taking swings, striking out, and hitting big is also the same way he would end up with his own sports franchise.
J-Lo and A-Rod are angling to buy the New York Mets.
They're not just angling, I mean, they are in the process of putting the money together.
Rodriguez, along with a group that included his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, entrepreneur Marc Lore, and several others, mounted a bid against frontrunner and hedge fund billionaire Stephen A. Cohen.
These guys are all rich, as far as we go. They've made millions and millions of dollars, but we're talking about billions here.
The very public process ultimately landed A-Rod and J-Lo's consortium as the runner-up, with Cohen buying the team for $2.4 billion.
We were a little bit depressed about it. We don't like to lose, and we started getting really excited and thinking about what could be. And so when it just sort of came to a complete halt, it was sort of like this shock to the system. We were sort of depressed and down.
Marc Lore is a New York-born businessman who most recently had been a senior executive at Walmart. He'd gotten there by selling his company, Jet.com, to the mega retailer and stayed on to run that division. And while A-Rod's partnership with J-Lo would come undone, he formed a close business and personal connection with Lore that's lasted.
House rules, man. I told you, no ties, man.
That's my favorite tie. We grew up in a sort of very similar way, and from very, very humble beginnings.
I love Marc. I love him like a brother, and he's a great partner and a great friend. And he sleeps in my house, I sleep at his house, and we both have this drive and this mission that I want him to win in the worst way, and I think he does the same for me.
I want to show you this clip because it spoke to me a lot about the depth of your relationship.
Yeah, I think this is getting a little bit deeper now, but I think it comes down to our dads. We both felt like we had something to prove in order to sort of feel love, really. And when you did something spectacular, you felt, oh, maybe, and I think he similarly had felt that too, where if you wanted to feel love, you had to do big things.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
I never thought about it that way, but I know that when my father left at 10, it left a huge hole in my heart and my stomach. And I knew that I had to do better. And I think before therapy, it was probably better for the wrong things. I think post and current, I look at it as just my purpose. But I also know that I'm enough now. And probably before that, I thought I wasn't.
The deep connection with Lore led to a new $400 million venture fund called VCP, and notably allowed them to quickly pivot to a successful deal in sports ownership, their pursuit of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx.
He called me and he said, "Hey, are you serious about this?" He said, "I won't do it unless you're serious about it." And I said, "I'm serious about it. Are you serious about it?" And again, a minute conversation, we're both in, and we probably got the deal done in 6 or 7 days.
NBA ownership has radically transformed in the past decade, as tech executives like Steve Ballmer and Joe Tsai and Wall Street investors like Mark Lazary, Josh Harris, and Tony Ressler have snapped up teams.
There's a supply-demand imbalance where anyone, most people, if they could, would own a professional sports team, and there's, very high barriers to entry and, very limited supply.
In the case of the Timberwolves, Glenn Taylor bought the team in 1994 for $88 million. The sale to Rodriguez's group values the franchise, paired with the 4-time WNBA champion Lynx, at $1.5 billion. And that's relatively affordable. A-Rod's old team, the Yankees, is worth more than $5 billion, according to several estimates. And while ownership is changing, so too are the players.
I think players today want more in every sport. They're into fashion. They want to be good investors. They want to learn about venture. The NBA players today that I've been around, some of them are more prepped at 20 than some of the guys that I played with were at 50. And meeting with our athletes and talking about business and them reaching out to me, it's great, it's humbling, and it's really impressive.
And if anything, their ownership has maybe gotten too close to the players, with the team being fined $250,000 for violating league rules with an off-season workout in A-Rod's hometown of Miami. But buying a basketball team instead of the Mets might accomplish a goal he thought was unreachable, actually making him cool to his daughters.
I recently went to a Sixers game, and my little one, Ella, who's 13, she goes, "Dad, I really like this basketball thing. Like, one day, maybe I get to, run the business here one day."
Really?
And I was like, oh my God, that's like the greatest thing I've ever heard. And she goes, it's like, baseball's a little slower, but this stuff, I can really get into it. I said, whoa, baseball's great too. It's just, it's more of a thinking man's game. It's like chess, not checkers. And she goes, yeah, whatever. I don't like chess either. But she says, this basketball thing, I have like real passion, is like the entertainment, and I have thoughts and I have ideas, and she thinks much more like a producer. She likes dancing. And I mean, to me, that's just like, boy, that's the great thing about sports and music. It brings people together. And it certainly did that for us that night.
You have built this amazing business. Yet there are people who are watching this who's like, this guy. It's like that they'll always remember you for your baseball career, and a baseball career that was controversial, to say the least. You could be living on an island somewhere. You don't have to do this.
I thought about tapping out a bunch of times. I would wake up in the middle of the night and be in tears going like, how in the world do I get pocket aces and figure out a way to screw this up? That was a very painful time for me. And I think the year suspension allowed me to not only put lipstick on the house and paint it and fix the windows, it allowed me to tear the entire house down and start building it one brick at a time. And in that process, I became even closer to my daughters. And when I think about those mistakes and the lessons learned, I think about, okay, but you know what? That was baseball, and I had good moments and I had very tough moments. But clean slate when it comes to being a father, to being a partner, to being a businessman, to being a friend. So I draw some incredible motivation through, something that sucked, something that I did to myself. I say to myself in the darkest hour, boy, if I ever get another opportunity, I'm not gonna screw that up again. And I'm trying my best not to do that.